Now, if I tell you something that completely goes against everything you've always heard, or something that you never would have thought of, even if I made up the information, has a much higher probability of going viral.
Like, you're a trained financial professional, and I'm sure that you appreciate the little details of being careful with language, like not making any false promises or guarantees. And when you talk about financial information, because the implication of following advice like this can have very serious consequences for people, right? And just their livelihood.
Sure.
And when you look at TikTok, there's a very thin line between like going for that engagement, virality, and fun and trendy stuff, but then also taking the responsibility and ownership of the content that you're putting out there to make sure that you're being responsible to people that are consuming it. Like, you must find it really agitating when you come across a video that's either just blatantly wrong, or like telling people that, S&P has been returning 10% for the past 10 years. So if you invest 100 days today, you will definitely get $1 million 20 years from now, like something along those lines. What's your reaction when you see that?
Well, I'd say for anybody, you're getting information online, it's always great to double check it, regardless of who you're getting it from. I've posted videos before that I later took down because I said something wrong or said something incorrectly. It's kind of a game when you're talking about social media.
Yeah.
And, there's a pressure to keep posting content. So like right now, I haven't posted in almost a week. And, like my follower account's going flat to down and my views are down and all. And so it's a game to keep posting content. And when you're in that cycle to keep posting, obviously, even if you have the best of intentions, you can make mistakes. So I'd say always double check everything you hear, regardless of who you get it from. And then I think there's, a distinction that needs to be made between, you've got people that are, trying to put out good information that sometimes make a mistake. You've got people that don't know what they're talking about, that are just putting stuff out there. And then you've got, people that are trying to take advantage of, viewers that don't have a background through scams or, Discord server chats or things like that. I'm not saying that Discord server chats are bad inherently, but there's some scam activity out there that you have to be careful from.
Sure. Is that concerning to you guys? Like, I wonder, do you talk to other financial influencers that are on your side of the fence? And because I would imagine this would be an issue for you guys.
It used to really get me real upset. And I mean, there's only so much you can do. I can control the content I'm putting out. I can't force people to watch me versus somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I used to spend a lot of energy trying to combat this stuff, responding to videos. It never got much traction. It kind of makes you look bad. So I have tried to just stay in my lane and put out good content. If it gets seen, great. If it doesn't, then, I'll try to do it better next time.
Yeah.
And so usually what I do is, if I see like some misinformation, sometimes I'll leave a comment, sometimes I won't, but then I'll just hit not interested within TikTok, and that you don't see it anymore. It's like it doesn't exist when you do that. I just try not to let it take too much of my energy, because then it would take away from me posting. And so then, you've got a disconnect between the people that are trying to put out good information versus, the people that are putting out misinformation.
Well, you know what? And I mean, I'm definitely not a fan of like bashing somebody else and saying, hey, the information is bad. It's always better to just focus on your positive and the good that you're doing yourself. And it's too much of a challenge to take on by yourself or any one person. But you know what? This happens in the business world too. And a lot of times this is part of the reason why associations get created, because organizations can join an association, get a voice, and establish a standard of quality. For example, in the lending space, there are associations where members get together and say, you know what, we're going to uphold the following standard about transparency and how we disclose our fees, right? This is an example. And then collectively, they gain a voice to now go to an authority and say, hey, we're an association. We have 100 different members. This is what we would like to happen, right? There's more authority with that too. I wonder, and I don't know, this is flying off the cuff, but what if the financial influencers, if you got together, and I'm sure you can probably have a list of people within TikTok and Instagram and other platforms that are leading this industry, get together, get a bit of your own circle going, agree on a set of standard, come to TikTok and say, listen, TikTok is having the same problem. I'm sure they also want to make sure that their users that are looking for quality financial advice or information are directed to the right sources, right? They don't want to deal with people consuming bad content. So, maybe you have some sort of a special verification badge. What do you think? Did you guys ever think about something like that?
We've talked about something similar, not necessarily going through TikTok, but like creating like a group or some sort. We've done that and it just never got any legs to it. That's a decent idea we may explore to like go to TikTok to get some type of a verification badge. I mean, the issue you have with TikTok is they're not financial experts. Not
Exactly.
saying that I know everything about finance, but
Yeah.
they, they're not financial people
Right.
inherently. They're content moderators, and a lot of times they're people that don't have any to all or much at all financial background, and so it'd be difficult for them to know. I mean, I went through a period there where I was like reporting like blatantly wrong stuff,
Hmm.
and it would come back and say this doesn't violate the community guidelines, even though it's like scams, misinformation, or
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
it clearly does. They just didn't know enough to know.
Well, TikTok is very early in their own life journey, right? Like they just opened up advertising for advertisers, and financial brands are one of the first waves of advertisers onto the platform. So I think as time goes on and the platform becomes more mature, they will start approaching these things with a little bit different set of gloves. But I think you guys are on the right track. I think the community of people led by people like yourself, where you're able to combine knowledge with a great way to deliver the information, it's a huge piece to just improving the financial behavior of people. And there's clearly a gap in that in North America as a whole, right? When you look at our lifestyle. So
Mhm.
anything that we can do to help make that happen, I think those are all ideas worth exploring.
I'd love that. And like I said, with social media in general, the hard thing is when it comes to viral content. I mean, if I tell you something that's not exciting or that you've already heard before, the chances of that going viral are almost zero. Now, if I tell you something that completely goes against everything you've always heard or something that you never would have thought of, even if I made up the information, has a much higher probability of going viral. And so I see a lot of viral like TikToks based on completely false information,
Yeah,
and there's no great way to respond to it because you respond back, they got 5 million views and your video gets 10,000. There's just no great way to
right.
respond or combat to that right now.
Exactly. And it's almost like people need a guide on figuring out how to find the right information, like how to even weed
Mhm.
out the different sources. Like for me, for example, I'm relatively experienced in the industry. So there are certain things that would show up for me as red flags right away as soon as I start, listening to somebody. But a very easy way to do that, if you see somebody on TikTok, like see if you can find them anywhere else. Because it's much easier to make an impression as an expert in 30 seconds than it is in 25 minutes, in 10 minutes, even in
Mhm.
5 minutes,
Mhm.
let alone an hour or so. Like I spoke recently to a certified financial planner. She's been doing it for over 35 years. And I spoke with her for an
Mhm.
hour. And during that hour, with every minute, I realized more and more just how much more this person knows than I am, like how much more experience they have than I
Right.
do, and what a good idea it would be to have her on my team to help me make financial decisions, right? You can't
Mhm.
really, it's
Mhm.
hard to replicate that, or I should say it's much easier to do that in a minute, if you don't, even if you don't know what you're talking about, but you can't hold that
Mhm.
conversation
Mhm.
up for even 5 minutes. And that's how you can usually identify those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.